Hello everyone, thank you so much for tuning in with me today. As many of you know, my name is Melanie Iverson. I am Mrs. North Dakota International 2020. I'm also a mother of two and a wife to one, to James. And today I'm so excited actually to be talking about personal restoration. Many of you know with my platform this year, I'm talking a lot about overcoming the obstacles that are set before me. I'm doing that through personal relationships and then also through the corporate space and entrepreneurial world that I have found myself in. And so today, what I want to talk about more with you is my own personal restoration as it relates to fitness, as it relates to the way in which I care for my body. I'm going to tell you a little story, and if you didn't watch last week's episode, I would really encourage you to do that. I talked a bit more about some just real tangible things that I did to break free from just that spirit of comparison, a lot of self-hatred and negative thoughts. But something I wanted to talk about today regarding those negative thoughts is a term called ants. Now, maybe some of you are familiar with that, but what ants are automatic negative thoughts. And those are the narratives that I have told myself all of my life. Like, Melanie, you are chubby and need to lose 5 pounds. Or Melanie, I can't believe you ate that pizza, you need to run an extra 5 miles. Or just all of these negative things. And these narratives that we tell ourselves in our mind absolutely shift the way that we see ourselves in the mirror. They shift the way that we see ourselves in relationships with people, and they shift the way that we see ourselves at work. Just imagine for a minute if you constantly had someone behind you saying you suck, or you're not good enough, or if you were just X, Y, or Z, you would be better. And the reality is that many of us say those things to ourselves inside our minds every single day. So while I was embarking on my own restorative personal journey, I was working with this amazing therapist, and she called attention to my automatic negative thoughts. And some of those, like I was just saying, some of those were about the way that I was eating or the way that I was behaving in my life. And for so long, exercising for me was about punishment. It was about what I was putting into my body was mostly trash. And then as if just to punish myself, I would work out excessively, and I would sometimes take mood altering substances so that I could increase the amount of working out I was doing, because I had such low value for myself and low view of myself. And like I said, if you didn't watch last week's video, I just want to encourage you to do that. I'm really building on that. But what happened after the experience that I talk about in that video was that I stepped into this season where I no longer was punishing my body for just being my body. I had stepped into this new season where I was embarking on radical self-acceptance for the way that I looked, for the way that my body looked. Now, that does not mean I didn't work out or I ate junk. Actually, what that meant for me was that I began to finally care for myself in a way that was very honoring. That was very honoring to myself. Now, self-care is not the same as self-indulgence. I'm not going to talk today about drinking margaritas, getting face masks, go on the beach. Like, those are all fantastic things. You should do that if you're into that. But what I'm talking about really is about authentic self-care, so that we can show up to our lives as the best version of ourselves and constantly be growing. In relation to fitness today is what I really want to highlight, because it's actually quite exciting to me. So anyhow, after that season, I began to do things that I did not think I was strong enough to do. There were many automatic negative thoughts in my life that caused fear, that caused anxiety, that caused me to feel physically weak, emotionally weak, and spiritually weak. And so what I started to do was I started to do reps, right? I started to practice all the things that I didn't think I was strong enough to do. And so I traveled abroad to the Middle East, and in a male-dominated patriarchal society, because I didn't know if I could do it or not. I didn't know if it would scare me, and so I thought I should try. During that time, I joined a gym, and I joined a gym where I was surrounded by a lot of very strong athletic people, and I would go every day to do things that I didn't think I could do. And what started to happen is those ants, those automatic negative thoughts, began to dissipate, because as I was physically doing things that I didn't think I was strong enough to do, I started to discover, hey, I can do this. I'm strong enough. And I wasn't only doing that in the gym, I was doing it in real life. I was doing it, not that the gym's not real life, but I was doing it in my personal life. I was doing it at work. I was taking things on that I just never thought that I could take on. Now, what I noticed physically was that as my daily discipline grew, my work discipline grew. And as my daily physical discipline grew, mentally I was becoming stronger as well. And so there's this definitive connection between my body and my mind and my will and my emotions. And so, some people have asked me, James and I kind of joke, when we got remarried, we were both working out and whatever, and we got remarried, side note, we took like a cheat day and accidentally extended that into a couple of years. And so it wasn't fantastic, but we were just in a different season of our lives. Anyhow, so when I decided that I was going to, when I was toying with the idea of doing this pageant, I just didn't feel like my body was where I wanted it to be. Now, I have all this experience of growing stronger, going to the gym, doing all of this stuff, but I just was so not motivated. I was very not interested in going to the gym, and I had read a book called The Power of Habit. And in The Power of Habit, I really recommend it to anyone who is trying to create new habit loops or patterns in their lives, because what I discovered in that book was that I just needed to make my daily disciplines automatic. So what I worked on doing was replacing the automatic negative thoughts with immediate automatic behaviors that counteracted those thoughts. And so if I had a moment where I was feeling weak or insignificant, I would stop myself and say, I am strong. I'm stronger than I think I am, and I am powerful, and this is not my forever. And I did that physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And so, as this relates to physical fitness, I'm finally getting to it. As it relates to physical fitness, I stepped into this time. I read this book on habit. I knew I wanted to create a pattern. I knew I wanted to create this new habit loop. And I think I listened to Rachel Hollis's Last 90. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna work out. If you don't know anything about it, check her out. You can just Google it. But it just talks about how so many people wait until New Year's Day to create a resolution, and then they're like days in, and then they just bonk or whatever. And what she suggests, and what I did was I started 3 months before New Year's Eve with the patterns, with those habits that I wanted to create as I was preparing for this season. And so 90 days out before New Year's, I decided I was going to join a different gym. I'm fussy about the gym that I go to, just because I want a certain kind of energy, and I want to feel motivated, and I just want, there's just a synergy that I'm looking for. So I joined this gym. I downloaded bodybuilding.com on my phone, downloaded workouts that I've done in the past by Jamie Eason. I did some insanity workouts, and all I was doing at that moment in that time frame was reps. I was just creating and fulfilling the habit loop that I knew would take about 21 days. I think it takes me a tiny bit longer to create a habit, so for me, a good month is solid. And as I started going to the gym, I found that I wanted to go earlier and earlier. And so then I started going earlier and earlier. Well, in November, I had my friend Michelle contact me, and she asked me, what are you doing to get ready for this passion? And I just said, well, I'm going to the gym, but I'm kind of struggling with consistency, sort of, not really, but I just feel like I could be pushing myself harder. And so she invited me to Fly Fitness and said, why don't you come and try it out? And so I started, I think I finally got there in December. And the thing that I really liked about this new gym I was going to was that it's all high intensity workouts. So I don't know, had I not started that habit earlier in the year, if I would have been prepared to push myself the way that I did at this new gym. And the thing though that I was building back here as I was creating the habit loop was I would go in and I would say to myself, I'm strong enough to do this. I can do this. I can do hard things. And so by the time I got to this new gym where the workouts were considerably harder, I would sit on a cycle, which I was not used to cycling at the time, and I would say the same thing. So those old automatic thoughts that were, you're so chubby, or you shouldn't have eaten all those carbs, you need to work out more, turned into me sitting on a cycle, listening to these coaches saying, yes, you can, you are strong enough, you can do this, and everything on the walls were just really positive. And it has been fantastic. So I just wanted to say I'm absolutely obsessed with Fly Fitness as a gym to go to. But more than the results that I'm even just seeing just physically in my body, I want to share this story. I used to weigh myself obsessively, and I would do it every day, and it was crazy making, but it was just something, it was just part of what I would do. And the numbers on the scale would determine the mood of my day, or the way my jeans fit would literally determine the way that my day was going. If they were tight, I would just feel like the worst person in the world. And so I weighed myself once, I think at the gym in like October or November, I think right around Thanksgiving, which is like horrible, right, to do to yourself. But after that, I stopped. And something that I really liked about Fly, about the place that I'm going to now, is that there's no scales. And on the walls, there's sayings, and on one of the walls it says, I am electric, I am unstoppable. And there are so many days in those classes that the automatic negative thoughts want to come in, like, I'm too tired for this, I'm too exhausted, I can't. And and in those moments of weakness, honestly, I look to the wall and I'm like, yes, I can. I'm unstoppable, I'm electric. Because the thoughts that we think about ourselves matter so much, and it matters physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And so anyway, so I'm going to this gym, and I'm not weighing myself. I have no idea, where I'm at, to be honest with you. And I had someone talk to me about getting ready for nationals. Is like, I'm a month out from going to nationals, and I'm so excited to go and meet everyone and hear everyone's story. But they asked me, how close are you to your goal weight? Like, where are you at with your goal weight and where you'd like to be? And I kind of laughed, because 5 years ago, I would have been able to tell you that I am X and X number of pounds, this many ounces, this is my BMI, because I was so obsessively consumed with the number on the scale. And I had to literally laugh out loud, because this time through, I was like, I don't have a goal weight. I don't actually even know what I weigh right now. I just know how I feel, and I feel strong. I feel like I can do a lot of push-ups. I feel like if something was chasing me, I could run for a long time. And it was such a moment of just beautiful clarity in that what used to define my every waking moment was no longer something I've even thought about. And it's no longer something that defines me as a woman or defines me as a person, because the habit loop was started, because the automatic negative thoughts, for the most part, are gone. I am human just like everyone else. I screw up just like everyone else. I'm just a person, right? But it has taken seasons of very intentional growth to pursue that, where the thing that used to define me is no longer something that I think anymore about. And so, very tangibly speaking, if anyone is like, what are you doing to prepare? I'm doing high intensity workouts. It's called muscle confusion. If your body plateaus, you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you go into a plateau and you no longer see change anymore. And I think life is a lot like that, where if we get stuck doing the same thing over and over and over again, we stop seeing change in our personal lives, in relationship to other people, and at work. And so I just want to challenge you, if you're really into fitness, even if you're not, to try some high intensity workouts. If you're from my area, you should check out Fly. I absolutely love them, and I love the culture and the community and the way that they have invested in me and love me and care if I'm there or not. So very tangibly, try that. Emotionally, I would really encourage you to write down any pervasive, automatic, negative thoughts that you have. Is there something you always say to yourself when you make a mistake? Is there something you always think? Maybe I'm a bad mom. I didn't do good enough at work. I'm lazy. I'm tired. I'm whatever. Do you have those automatic negative thoughts? And I want to encourage you to write those down on a notebook. And then I want you to draw a line. And I want you to write the opposite of each one of those automatic negative thoughts. If it's, I'm out of shape and can't exercise, write, I am strong and I can start today. If it's, I'm a bad mom, write, I am a good mom. I'm doing what I need to do to better myself, right? Like, I don't care what it is, but I just want to encourage you to realize that you can be strong physically, emotionally, and spiritually as you continue to do these reps, right? And so write those automatic negative thoughts down and write the opposite, because your negativity is not doing you any favors, okay? And our thoughts become actions, and our actions become habits, and our habits become our life. And you have the power to change that. It's hard, and it takes a lot of work. I'm gonna end on one last story to talk about that. When James and I got a divorce, I drank wine all the time. And when we got a divorce, I had no coping mechanisms to handle the season that I was walking into. And so I drank wine every night to fall asleep because I was having nightmares. I couldn't sleep at night. The medication I was prescribed also gave me nightmares, or it made me feel like a zombie and like really hungover in the morning. I heavily abused red wine and other alcohol, right? Other things, other drinks. And it got to a point where it was absolutely self-destructive. And I knew I needed to make a change. And I would do detoxes, and I would take breaks, like I can do that. I wasn't, I could just take breaks and whatever, but I hated it. I didn't like it. And that was when I started reading The Power of Habit, because I remember thinking, something has to change. I don't like who I am. I don't like who's showing up for me on my day-to-day life, you know? And I had a lot of shame associated with that. I had a lot of ants associated with the way that I was coping with my divorce. And so what happened over a period of time was I read that book. I was doing a ton of therapy, and I started replacing that with physical fitness. I started really intentionally working out and connecting myself to my body, reacquainting myself with my body, and progressively things would get better, and then sometimes I would revert and whatever. But I knew if I kept working at this pattern that I would no longer be doing the things that I was doing. And so what I can say today is that's no longer a part of my life. This intentional connection to my body, this intentional strengthening my mind, my soul, my spirit, and literally my body has drawn me now into a season of my life where I can focus, where I am not a victim to those negative thoughts anymore, because I have discovered through this process that I have the power to overcome. Yes, I can also do push-ups. That's fun, but it's much deeper than just getting physically fit. This is about holistically looking at my life, asking myself, how am I willing to show up for myself today? How am I willing to carve out time and do something that I know will positively impact me in the future? And so my takeaways, again, if automatic negative thoughts are something that you struggle with, I want you to write those down. Write the opposite, and then take a look at one thing you can do. What's one thing right now? I would really encourage you to check out the Last 90 Challenge. You can do it whenever. But what is one thing for the next 30 days you can do to show up for yourself? Whether that's drinking more water, whether that's maybe taking a break from alcohol, or taking a walk every day. I don't care, but do something, right? Do something, because you have the power to overcome. So thank you so much. I'm so excited. Please subscribe. You guys are great.